Good evening. I have readjusted some of my slides because I can't cover everything that I need to cover by 7 o'clock. But wherever I am, I'm going to stop at 7 o'clock so that I can answer any questions that you may have. I will also be back in December, and at that time, I'll be covering the college application process. So based upon my initial survey of the audience, and just again, just to show of hands, if you are a high school senior or you're the parent of a high school senior. Okay, so that's a good number of people in the room. Raise your hand if you are a high school junior or the parent of a high school junior. Okay, thank God you all came tonight. We're gonna get you moving. My wife and I, we work with also a cohort of students that we've been working with since January, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. They're first generation students who are now seniors. So we began working with them in January, pardon me, of this year as high school juniors, and now they're high school seniors. Here's the benefit immediately for the juniors. A couple of the juniors who are in that group, one of them has received 2 invitations to diversity weekends at selective colleges and universities in the United States. The other student has received invitations to Williams, Swarthmore, Amherst, Washington and Lee, and I believe one other. The benefit that they have, and for all of you who are juniors, the time frame you need to be on, is that if you can hit your highest SAT or ACT score by June of your junior year, then you're going to be in a great place to begin your college planning in that summer and to get onto the radar of all of these highly selective colleges and universities. If you do not do that, then when you become a senior, that's just another distraction. So let me cover as much as I can. Oftentimes, students are applying to a broad number of colleges and universities, and each year on Facebook, we see Facebook postings of students who have been accepted to 50 or 60 or 100, and in the case of this student, 149 colleges and universities. That's not important. You can only attend one school. The thing that is important is to get accepted into the right school. It's not about how many. I found it interesting when I read this Facebook posting that this student had been offered $7 million in scholarships, but not a full scholarship to any one school. So that's 149 schools and a lot. You can only spend the scholarship money also at the school you attend if it's institutional money. For example, if Princeton offers you $50,000, you can't use that money at Harvard. If Stanford offers you $60,000, you can't go and use that money at Johns Hopkins. So all of that looks good. The check is good, but the goal must be to get accepted into the right college. And unfortunately, each year, students' failure to apply to the right colleges based upon their family income and their body of work is resulting in an enormous amount of student loan debt. The project on student loan debt, for anyone in the room, it will tell you about the state of North Carolina. In the state of North Carolina, 61% of college students are going to leave college with over $25,000 in student loan debt. And when I say leave, I didn't say graduate, because many of them will leave college without a degree, but the debt will follow is a ball and chain around them for the rest of their lives. You can research the average student loan debt at any of the schools that you are interested in applying to in the state of North Carolina, and that should help to guide your focus in terms of not only where you want to apply, but whether or not when you're engaging in your research, if any of the schools where you want to apply offer institutional scholarship money. It says in the video is that her mom would not sign for her initial student loans, so she went to her aunt. So her aunt signed for some of the student loans. And then eventually she went back to her mom. So when she left college, her mom owed student loans, her aunt owed student loans, and the student herself owed student loans. And even her analysis at the end was flawed. What she said was, well, I chose LaSalle when I really should have chose a state university. Whether or not you choose a private university or a state university is not the issue. The issue is whether or not you choose the college that has the type of institutional aid that you need and that you can qualify for. And you can only know that from the research that you engage in. So I want to give you an example of the pathway for those of you who are not seniors, for you to ensure that you put yourself on. This is the student who we assisted this summer settling into her dorm at Williams College. Well, she started this process as a third grader, and when she entered sixth grade, she had a clear 7-year plan in terms of what she felt that she needed to do to be accepted into the right schools. And these were the schools that she was accepted into last year as a high school senior. Amherst, Duke, Princeton, Vanderbilt, Washington and Lee, and Williams. She was able to be accepted into those schools because she had researched them carefully. She had established a relationship with each of the schools. But most importantly, she knew that they had the financial aid policies that would meet her need. But raise your hand if you have never even heard of Williams College. Okay, and raise your hand if you haven't heard of Amherst College. Okay, Williams and Amherst are the #1 and #2 ranked liberal arts schools in the United States, and they have been #1 and #2 for the past 20 years. But they're not a schools that is on the radar of many young people. They're not a school that's mentioned oftentimes by school counselors. They're not a school that is participating at high school fairs because they're small, highly regarded liberal arts colleges, but they share something in common. They meet full need. Williams College is extraordinary. For students who come from families that can demonstrate financial need, Williams is not satisfied with meeting your full need. They feel that's not enough. They don't want anything to get in the way of you earning your degree. So Williams College will award students full books, free books for 4 years. But not only will you get free books for 4 years, at the end of the year, you can sell the books back to the bookstore, and you get to keep that money. When students enter college, you will have to have medical insurance. You either need to have medical insurance at home, or you have to purchase the medical insurance for the college, which typically is $1,800 a term, or $1,800 an academic year. Williams wants to make sure that's not a burden, so they will give students who demonstrate need an $1,800 grant. But that's not enough. They're not satisfied with that. Kimberly has 2 free round-trip tickets from Albany, New York to Atlanta, Georgia to come home every year. The reason I'm personally so high on Williams College is we went there is we wanted to confirm for ourselves everything that the research has said, and it worked out. For the students who may be here who can't demonstrate critical financial need, but your parents still aren't making $250,000 a year, this is what Williams College looks like. The reason also I wanted to share this clip is I want everyone in the room to recognize that there are no absolutes in college admissions. We would think it would cost less to go to Guilford Technical Community College than it would to go to a college with a net price of $66,000 a year. So we would dismiss one school outright. And what I want to impress upon you is you can't do that. You have to understand the financial aid policy of the school, because one school that's at $66,000 in the beginning could be very different once you have completed your research and you've identified their financial aid policies. So this is just a screenshot of U.S. News and World Reports of Amherst and Williams, and they typically will switch rankings. Amherst 1 year is #1, Williams, and so forth. Important thing for everyone in the room is you have to understand the race that you're running. And I want to make sure I say this specifically to the students, is that if you look at these numbers, if you understand that there are nearly 25,000 public high schools in the United States, that they're graduating 3.3 million seniors every year, and 1.3 million, 1.5 million students are applying to four-year colleges and universities, and there are less than 3,000 colleges and universities. Here's what I want to impress upon you. If you are a senior, your essay should have been written, and if it's not written, then you're going to put everyone under a great deal of pressure, because to write a great essay, it may take 3 months to get a good essay. And here's why you need a great essay when there's so many students in the pool of applicants. Your essay is your only voice in the room. And when your essay speaks to the reader, it has to tell your story in a very compelling way. It can't be something you just threw together. It can't be something that you just brought that was just an assignment in an AP language arts class. Your essay has to connect with the institutional mission of the school you're applying to. It has to profile you in a way that the school says, we want that student, not the other ones. We want that one. And every year what happens is that students who are highly accomplished, they just don't recognize the level of competition. And I want to say this to students who are not highly accomplished, the student who's in the room who's not a 4.0, the student who doesn't have a 33 on the ACT or didn't score on the 1500 on the SAT, you can still get into a highly selective college if you can bring your hook into the room. If you do something extraordinary that makes you exceptional, you will get into a college where your grades and your test scores normally would not qualify. So you never should be discouraged, and you never should allow anyone to say, oh, don't apply to that school because you can't get in. You have to, so I want to just show some of these issues. The basic concept is backwards mapping. Now, backwards mapping is this. You identify the group of schools that you want to be accepted into, and then you thoroughly research them to identify who is the type of student those schools are looking for. This is work. And when you identify the types of students they're looking for, then you have to be honest with yourself. Am I that type of student? If I'm not, then I probably shouldn't waste anyone's time to apply to that school. But if I am, then let me make sure that I have a high quality self-presentation, so when my application gets into the room, my application is going to be looked at, and I'm going to be a student that people will go to bat for, will make an argument for. These are the basic choices after high school. And what I want all the parents and all the students to understand is this box, the box of community college. Many students believe that the only thing that you can brag about is graduating from high school and going straight into a four-year college, no matter the cost, no matter how many $1,000 of loans you assume. That's not a plan. That's a wish. A plan is, if you can get into the right school, that's great. But if you can't, and you start in community college with a transfer agreement that's a clear pathway into the right school, then 2 years later, you're still at the right school anyway. And let me say this for parents, because this is important. If a student, as most students do, begins a four-year college in the wrong college and then transfer, they lose a lot of those credits. But if that same student begins in community college with a transfer agreement into a state university, they know that they can take their credits with them. Students who transfer more than once from a four-year college may take 8 years to get their degree. You start here, you can't take all your credits. You go there, you can't take all your credits. So it really requires a great deal of thought and conceptualizing the plan that you want. And again, you may say, look, I want to go to college and come out and get a job. Or you may start now and say, well, I want to go to college and I want to continue on to medical school, law school, or graduate school. Just making that declaration can expand your college options. Because if you're planning to go to medical school or law school or graduate school, then a liberal arts college is a great place to begin, and you don't have to start in a research institution. Or other students may say, look, Mr. Wynn, I heard you. I'm going to go to community college, and then I'm transferring to a four-year school. Other students may say, look, Mom, I'm going to get that associate's degree or that certificate, and I am ready to go to work. And for parents to push a child into a four-year school when they don't want to be there can be a huge financial burden on everyone. So all that I want you to do as families is to talk these things through, because there are no absolutes. I applied to one college as a high school graduate. I'm a first-generation graduate in my family. I didn't know that colleges could tell you no. I applied to Northeastern University in Boston for a very clear reason. I needed the cooperative education program. I didn't know anything about researching scholarships. I needed to go to school where I could go and I could work my way through college. For our children, it was very different. Our oldest son had the privilege of going to a liberal arts school to find himself. I didn't have that privilege. I started in electrical engineering. I needed to go to college and I needed to get a job. Our son was able to go to college and experiment in philosophy and Eastern religion and female issues and graduate with a degree in English, so that then he would go on to graduate school. So he just had very different choices. Okay, let me cover the important things that need to be in the room with your application. You should have a high quality one-page resume. Many colleges will allow you to submit a resume as an application supplement through the Common Application. Your one-page resume should highlight who you are, if you've been working, if you've been involved in clubs and activities, what you've been doing throughout high school. You should have recommendation letters that make a connection to who you are. And the best way to assist a teacher in writing a recommendation letter is to present the teacher with a copy of your resume when you ask them to write your letter of recommendation. That way they can refer to what's on your resume in their letter of recommendation. You should have a core story that connects to your resume, to your body of work, that can become the body of your essay. And I'll give you this as an example. One of our students last year was born with a birth defect that left her with partial paralysis in her right arm. Tiffany didn't mention this in my introduction, but my wife and I are the education ministry leaders at our church, at Turner Chapel AME Church in Marietta, Georgia, and we have been working with students at our church for the past 10 years, guiding them into college. So this was one of the students from our church who we've watched grow over these past 10 years. She also does missions to the homeless community in Atlanta. So on her resume, it says the mission trips. On her resume, it talks about that she's a varsity soccer player. But you wouldn't know that she had a birth defect unless she wrote about it in her essay. Now, how do you weave a thread through these different things to develop your body of work in a meaningful way? Well, what she did was, on one of the mission trips, she was talking with a homeless man. He was just making so many excuses about his life and about unfortunate circumstances, and about everything that had worked against him. And she was sitting there listening to him. And he just eventually looked over and noticed her arm. And he asked her a question. He said, "So what's up with your arm?" And she explained to him that it was a birth defect and what had happened. And he said, "Dang, that's messed up." And she started laughing and he started laughing. And then he said, he did self-reflection. He said, "You mean that you were born with a birth defect, you're on your way to college with a full scholarship, you played soccer because you couldn't use your arms, and here I am sitting here, able-bodied, whining about my life experiences." He said, "Man, I have been blessed beyond measure from your testimony." She wrote this whole story in her essay. She was accepted in every college she applied to, and she received full scholarships to a number of colleges and universities. But what it did was it wove a thread through her resume, her recommendation letters from her teachers, and her body of work. You should have this conversation at a dinner table in your home. Invite your aunt who you can't stand. Invite a neighbor who is always critical. What you want at your dinner table are all of the people who are critical. And when they're looking at your paperwork, They're going to be the people who are going to bring out any flaws. And they're going to be the people who are going to suggest that you reconsider. Now, why is that important? Because you want to do this in your home. You don't want it happening in that room. You can't control anything in that room. You can't control any of the people in that room. And you don't get a second chance in that room. You either get rejected outright, you get waitlisted, or you're offered admission. It's just that simple. If you're on the wait list, many students will not clear the wait list because it's just too many people, too many students who are on the wait list hoping that someone else doesn't enroll in the college. This is an example of what we do at our church. We're all sitting around this table. This is a small group. And we're having this open and honest and authentic discussion about the children and where they're applying. And so I just want to encourage you to find some people who you trust and you have confidence in to engage in these conversations. So how do you wind up or find yourself into the right college? There are some things first that you want to avoid, and it's college undermatch. College undermatch is children or young people who have the body of work where they should be applying to selective colleges and universities, they don't. So for example, when I mentioned Williams College, and very few people had ever heard of it, that's a typical undermatched situation. That means that there may be some students in the room who would be good candidates for Williams, but they would never apply to Williams. They would wind up applying somewhere else. So what you want to do is you must research and you must identify your group of schools. One of the best websites, in my opinion, is the website College Results Online, which is managed by the nonprofit Education Trust. And the reason I like that website, and there are many websites where you can compare colleges, but the reason I like that one is that on the College Results Online website, you can populate a number of colleges and they all come up together. But then if you find one in your group that you're a good match, there's a compare tab and it will find colleges for you that are also in that group of colleges that are very much like the college that you had identified. Another problem that I want to encourage you to avoid is young people applying to colleges that are not affordable. Now, here's the way that you determine if a college is affordable for your family. You identify your list of schools, and then you go to the net price calculator for each of those schools. You put in your family income, and the net price calculator, which is mandated by the federal government that colleges have this, is going to come back and it's going to give you some numbers. It will tell you what you expected to pay, but the important numbers, it will tell you how much institutional money the college will give you. It will tell you whether or not the money that the college gives you is in the form of loans versus grants and scholarships. So if you identify your group of schools, let's say, and I want to say this to the young people, don't misunderstand my intent when I say apply to the right schools. I am not suggesting that you have a small list. I don't buy into this philosophy that you should have 3 safety schools, 3 match schools, and 3 reach schools. My philosophy is you should have as many schools as matched to your financial need as necessary. That may be 30 schools. Now, I know parents may say, I don't want to pay 30 college applications. Look, let me tell you something. If your child can get accepted into that one school that gives them a full ride, 30 application fees pales in comparison. But I don't know where that one school is, and you don't know. Here's the only way that you know is that the net price calculator helps you to identify the group of schools you should be applying to. But additionally, after you get accepted, you're going to get a financial aid award letter. And that financial aid award letter will give you and your family an opportunity in April of your senior year to sit down and compare all the offers from all the schools that you've been admitted into. You just want to make sure that that's the right group of schools that you have been admitted into. Also, student loan debt. For those of you who are not aware, the largest amount of student loan debt will always come from for-profit institutions. So Strayer, the Art Institutes, University of Phoenix, any for-profit, you will always have the largest amount of student loan debt because they, by design, will make it easy for you to enroll and give you student loans. We think that state universities are going to necessarily be low in student loan debt, but that's not necessarily true. The lowest amount of student loan debt of any college or university typically will come from highly selective private institutions for students who can demonstrate financial need. So again, speaking to the issue of student loans, is that we just want to identify a good group of schools as you start this process. And also I want to be cautious of this. Many of you have already received a lot of mail. You've received mail from colleges you've never even heard of. And they told you that they picked you out of a hat. You are an exceptional student, and they have $20,000 that they want to. St. John's is one of the biggest ones. St. John's in New York, they send letters all over the country telling all these students how wonderful they are, how extraordinary they are, and they are ready to give them $20,000. That leaves a $45,000 balance. And students are ready to run and apply. The colleges you apply to should be colleges you chose, not that they chose you. They're marketing, trying to find gullible people. I don't want you to be, and here's another one. And again, I'm not trying to slander anyone, but I'm going to ask you, how many of you, raise your hand, young people, you are a member of the National Society of High School Scholars? Raise your hand. Don't be embarrassed. I'm going to take my mic and walk around. Because sometimes, I'll talk to people and they won't, he's videotaping, so I can't go too far. They won't be honest. Here's what happens. Because I'm not ashamed of it, parents. Our oldest son is a who's who in American public schools. I paid. I got the book on my bookshelf. He didn't get to be in who's who because he was so extraordinary. They sent him a letter and say, guess what? Would you like to be in who's who? Yes, I would. So what I want you to understand is when you're a member of the National Honor Society at your high school, colleges know that's legit. When you're a member of the National Beta Club, that's legit. When you're in the Tri-M Music Honor Society, that's legit. When you're in the Technical Honor Society, the Math Honor Society, the Science Honor Society, all of those things colleges know. And so all that I want you to do is to really understand and to be focused. The award letters. When you all begin receiving your award letters, they are intentionally deceptive. That means they won't tell you the real cost of attendance. They'll just give you the numbers. We're going to give you $10,000 in a grant. We're going to give you another $2,000 academic scholarship. Also, what they don't tell you is the fine print. Many students go into colleges with money up front that is not renewable. They'll give you a $2,000 academic grant. You can be a great student, but then next year, that money is simply not renewable. You have to read the fine print. I want to say this to the dads, because the dads normally are the ones who negotiate a new car purchase. Am I right or wrong? You all won't talk to me. Okay, I'll talk to my wife. She's in the back of the room. Honey, wave to everyone who's here. Honey, when we go to negotiate a car, do you want to be bothered with the tedious negotiation? That's right. My wife does not want to go in. She just wants to drive home with the car. She wants me to do all that. Negotiating a car, how many dads have negotiated a car that took days? That you had to get up and storm out, call the guy back, or the salesman called you after you left, or he ran out to you before you could get in your car and say, no, come on back here, come on. And what does he always say? I just talked to my manager. And my manager told me that, this is going to kill us, man. This is breaking us. I've never done this before for anybody. But, man, I love you, man. I just love you and your family. I just want to see you. Colleges are just like that. Colleges send all this stuff out to students because they want the student going to their parents and say, Mom, they think I'm wonderful. I must go there, no matter what it costs. So we just want to be cautious of that. Here's the point. The point is you need a plan. You got to really look at yourself, and if you're not a senior, you still have time. If you are a senior, you got to just package yourself in whoever you are. What are the big things to be packaged? You must take the most difficult classes that you can achieve a final grade of B or better. Now, for those students who listen to your friends who say, you don't need that, colleges only care about your GPA. Why would you listen to another kid? They don't know anything. Colleges look at your course taking within the context of your high school. So they will get your high school profile, then they'll look at what classes you took, and then they'll look at the grades that you earned in those classes. Why do I say be a better? Here's what an admission officer at Yale said in response to this question. A student said, well, should I take an AP class and get a C? Or should I take an honors class and get a B? Or should I take a regular class and get an A? He said, at Yale, we expect you to take an AP class and get an A. And then we expect you to get a 4 or a 5 on the AP exam. Well, what that's to say to a student, I want all the students to understand, if you don't want to take the AP class, if you don't want to get an A, if you don't want to study to get a 4 or 5 on the exam, just don't put Yale on your list. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. So, I need everyone to recognize whether or not your family must demonstrate need or merit, or if you have both. The way that you understand your family need, if you have not already sent a child to college, is you go to the U.S. Department of Education website, FAFSA, F-A-F-S-A, I believe it's .gov. The FAFSA website has a link on the bottom right that's called the FAFSA Forecaster that allows you to put your family size, your income, and it will give you your expected contribution or your EFC. If you're in this room and you qualify for free or reduced lunch, you have demonstrated need. If you're in this room and you do the FAFSA Forecaster and you qualify for $1 of the U.S. Pell Grant, you have demonstrated need. If you're in this room and you do the FAFSA Forecaster and you come back with an EFC of $80,000, you don't demonstrate need. Your child needs to have merit. Merit is not based upon family income, it's based upon gifts and talents. The area of meritorious achievement that we're most familiar with is athletics, but that's just one. Merit scholarships come in the form of academics, athletics, music, art, dance, leadership. If you're a Boy Scout, if you're a junior and you have a chance to become an Eagle Scout, become an Eagle Scout. If you're a senior and you quit Scouts back in middle school, that's too bad. If you're a girl and you have the chance to get your gold award, get your gold award, because colleges offer scholarships for that level of leadership. But whomever you are, you simply need to identify the group of schools. Here's an example. All of these schools have need-based financial aid policies. The Ivy League schools do not offer scholarships. They meet need. Their position is, if you're qualified to be accepted into the Ivy League, then that means that you are qualified to apply for all sorts of merit-based scholarships. We're not going to give you the money. Go and apply. If you are, and let me say, if you know anyone, maybe it's not those of you who are here, and let me say this to the students. If you have any friends in school who are on free and reduced lunch, if you know any families who are lower income, these are the schools their children are supposed to be pursuing. And you cannot pursue these schools in the 12th grade. You start in elementary school saying that I want to get accepted there, so what are all the things that I need to do to get accepted into those types of schools? Now, if you can't demonstrate need, but you have gifts and talents where you qualify for merit scholarships, these are the types of schools. We have students at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, which is an honors university in the University of Maryland system. They offer a $22,000 merit scholarship for the Meyerhoff Scholars Program for students interested in STEM. They offer a $15,000 annual merit scholarship for students in the humanities. They offer a $15,000 merit scholarship for women interested in their women program in technology. Many of the honors colleges throughout the country offer special scholarships. So if you're not going to University of North Carolina, Wilmington Honors College, then University of Alabama has an honors college. University of Georgia has an honors college. Northeastern University has an honors college. HBCUs, particularly for any of the African American student who typically apply to an HBCU, The HBCUs typically don't award money based on need because the African American population that attends an HBCU, typically a lot of students have need. They award their money based upon merit. That means that you're at the top of your class academically. We have a student now who's on full scholarship at Dillard University in a dual degree program. He will spend 3 years at Dillard, and then he would finish 2 years at Georgia Tech. He would graduate with a degree in physics and in engineering. But all of this requires research. Davidson College here in North Carolina offers a number of merit-based scholarships, but you need to be nominated by a school counselor, and those nominations are coming up within the next week. So if Davidson is one of the schools on your list, you need to go to their website and identify the scholarships. We have a student who worked in who was part of our cohort here in Guilford County last year, who was at George Mason. She has a full tuition scholarship to George Mason and was in line for a full scholarship. She was competing for a full scholarship that paid everything. The Stamps Leadership Scholars Program is also a merit-based full scholarship program, and there are 43 universities that participate in it. This is just one screenshot of the types of colleges and universities that are part of the program. So if you can demonstrate merit, leadership, then what I'm suggesting to you is you simply need to identify the colleges and universities that will award it. The 1890 National Scholars Program is a program that awards scholarships at, these are some of the HBCUs that are part of that scholarship program. But here's what the numbers look like. See how I'm doing on time. The number at the top is what scares everyone away from even submitting an application. But you're looking at the wrong numbers. Numbers that you should be concerned with are the numbers at the bottom, the net price. So my question for anyone in the room, if based upon your family income, you could get accepted into Duke, which is $66,626 a year, but you actually had a financial aid package where you had $2,480 more than what you need, would you attend Duke? That's how you look at this. And these were actually the award letters of the student that I mentioned earlier. And I also want to make this point for all the parents. These schools, their financial policies are based on need. So as a parent, you may say, well, my child is not going to qualify for all that money because I can't demonstrate need. Then this is a school that you should have on your list. Washington and Lee, all of this money is merit. This money is based upon grades and test scores. So again, what I'm saying to everyone in the room is you have to understand the type of financial aid you qualify for, and then ensure that you've identified the right colleges and universities to apply to. For those students in the room who are not seniors, and this is the beginning of your 11th grade year or earlier, I just want you to understand this. And this shouldn't come from your parents. This is coming to you right now from Mr. Wynn. If you want money for college, you need to take your grades and your test scores seriously. If you want money for college, you need to figure out what gift you have, and you need to make a commitment to developing it. And I'm going to share you an example from our sons, but I want to say this to everyone in the room. There are far too many children who follow their friends into activities that have nothing to do with their gifts. You have to develop your own gifts. You have to go where God has uniquely anointed you with a gift, not because all your other friends are doing it, but because it's something that you're able to do. And then students who figure out, look, I don't have a gift, I'm not getting the grades, but I need a free education. Then America has said, look, the military service academies, that's for you. Uncle Sam is waiting for you. We have a number of students who have gone to the Naval Academy, to West Point. So again, all of these are things that I need you to give consideration to. And then in terms of your academic planning, all that I need you to think about is how deeply can you engage yourself in academic opportunities before school, after school, online, middle college, early college, AP, IB, whatever coursework you can do. And here's what I want to say to the students who are sitting here saying, look, Mr. Wynn, I am not going to take all those classes. I got friends who are having a nervous breakdown. Then concentrate your coursework, your high-level coursework, around your gifts. If you're gifted in music, then take AP Music Theory. If you're gifted in art, take AP Studio Art, take AP Two-Dimensional Art. If you say, and I want to make sure I'm clear on this for parents and students, it is inconsistent for a student to affirm in their essay, I want to become a doctor, but I have been getting average grades in math and science throughout high school, and I haven't even taken the most difficult classes. That is not consistent. It doesn't give an application legitimacy. Now, am I suggesting to anyone in the room they can't affirm they want to become a doctor? No. But I would ask you this, and I'll just ask the parents, how many of you, as we get older, you will go to a doctor who didn't even take math and science? How many of you would go to a doctor who said, oh, by the way, I crammed on this surgery last night. I really didn't have time to review it. I mean, as a parent, you know what your children tell. Mom, I don't have time to be bothered with that. I got cheerleading, or I got football. Or how many of you, honestly, parents? So this is a conversation we want to have with our young people, is to make sure that their coursework is consistent with their aspirations. And young people, you got to set some goals. If you need scholarship, let me make sure this is clear, because I've said a lot, and in 35 seconds, I won't say any more. The most direct pathway to a full college scholarship are grades and test scores. And I'll say this to parents. If you have been concerned whether or not you should invest $1,000 or $1,500 or $1,800 in SAT or ACT prep, you simply need to look at the return on investment. If your child, and I don't know your child, but I'll say this. If your child can get close to 1,500 on the SAT through prep, if your child can get above 33 on the ACT through prep, he or she will put himself in a position for merit-based scholarships at any number of colleges and universities throughout the United States. And I'll say this to parents of students who are not seniors. When you have a child in the 9th grade, if you really want a high test score, all that you need to do is download the free ACT practice test. Have your 9th grader take the test, score the test, send the wrong answers to their subject area teachers in the high school in 9th grade. And have your child have a conversation with the teachers. When will I learn this? So that when I take this test and it matters as an 11th grader, that I can get my score into the score range that I want. I want to take one, I'll just do my oldest son, because I want to make sure all the students understand how you get into these colleges. Here's our oldest son. Of course, this was in kindergarten. We noticed in elementary school that he had a passion for art. What my wife and I did is we made sure that he was in every art program, art camp, art club throughout elementary and middle school and high school, and that he was connected to the elementary school, middle school, high school art teachers. We kept all of his artwork. He went to the Atlanta Museum of Art and worked with professors there to create his portfolio, which he submitted as an application supplement to Amherst College, and he applied early decision. Our son was a B+ student. His ACT score was 25. At Amherst College, the average ACT score of admitted students is 33. The average GPA of admitted students is a 4.0. What our son had going for him were several important things. He was a brilliant artist, so he demonstrated exceptionalism in something. He was a 3-sport varsity athlete. He ran track, he played football, he played lacrosse, and he applied early decision. So what he said to Amherst College, if you admit me, I'm coming. Amherst wants students who are going to participate, and what they saw in our son is that he would participate in the 5-school consortium, taking art classes at UMass Amherst and Mount Holyoke and Smith College and Hampshire College. They saw that he would participate in sports. He actually did play rugby while he was at Amherst, and they found that he was academically capable. And I want to say this for the parents and the students. Our son was evaluated based upon his body of work. What Amherst said was, yeah, he could be an A student if he did nothing. But he was a B+ student who played 3 varsity sports, taught martial arts, and volunteered at church and in the community. So what I'm saying to all the parents and all the students, you must go home tonight and honestly look at your body of work. What are you doing, and what more could you do that would separate you, that would distinguish you from the pool of applicants? What I also want to say to high school seniors who sometimes are really touchy, you must find people who will be honest with you, and you must listen to them. You don't need to surround yourself with people who tell you how wonderful you are, because when you apply to college and get rejected, you'll be crushed. You need to be around people who will tell you that you are good, but let me put it in these terms. With 25,000 high schools in the country, there are 25,000 valedictorians, there are 25,000 salutatorians. That means there are 50,000 students who are number 1 and number 2 in their school who are in the pool. You go to your school and you look at your class rank, multiply all the people in front of you by 25,000, and that's how many people in America are in front of you just in public education alone. Now, do I want to frighten anyone? No. What I want to give everyone realistic expectations, and having said that, I will take any questions.